Okay, we can get started. Welcome to the Town of Abington Conservation Commission hearing of February 10th, 2020. It's now 7 o'clock, and we're going to push the old business off. We have new business, request for a certificate of compliance. There's a letter from BSC Group that they have finished the order of conditions. There's nobody here from BSC, so we just okay this without them being here. Is that what they expected?
I thought there was gonna be somebody here, but, I mean, they did send.
You know something, we're gonna hold off. We're gonna hold off on that for a minute. And we're gonna go right into the, 'cause I know that they're here, request for determination filed by EMK Trust for the construction of a single-family home. Utilities and site grading on 16 Murphy Street in Abington. Kyle, go ahead.
Kyle Gabby, representing Robert Matthews, trustee of EMK Realty Trust. And what we've done is we've filed a request for determination of backability on this lot, which is on Murphy Street, and it also borders Chamberlain Street, which is a paper street that runs between Murphy and Dorsey. I had Brookman Moreau Pinebrook Consulting go out to the lot and to do a delineation. She basically didn't see much there, but did flag a small area, approximately 500 square feet, and basically it would be classified as an isolated wetland, but it's non-jurisdictional as it does not meet the requirement of a quarter-acre foot of water, and it is also not a it's not a bordering vegetated wetland, as it does not border any river, stream, brook, marsh, bog, and so forth. And she actually states that in her letter, that due to its size, it is non-jurisdictional resource area under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act. In fact, due to the small size, it is questionable whether the depression is jurisdictional under any bylaw. The area, however, identified because of physical characteristics on site. There was no standing water or anything, it was just there was some vegetation in that area. This lot basically slopes from Murphy Street towards Dorsey Street. Really can't hold any water based on on the slope of the lot. And based on that, I think the nearest, if you go onto the DEP wetland change map, the nearest wetland that they're showing is at the other end of, at Dorsey Street, where actually this subdivision actually filed a notice of intent to fill in over the road, and they made a replication area in this area. That was done, several years ago. And, well, this would be our lot up in here.
Right there, okay.
Yeah, right here.
Was there anything existing on here?
There's a shed out there.
But that's it?
That's it. And then between here, between this lot and these other lots, there's like a tennis court that's kind of been, but
Okay.
it seems to be overgrown. A chain link fence and so forth out there.
So there's gonna be no water flowing into these houses here anyways, because they're upland. You got an 18-foot drop from the houses on Crossley over to this paper street Chamberlain Run.
No, oh, no, I mean, it's sloping, it generally slopes in a southerly direction. Murphy Street is up higher. We're filling the front of this lot.
Right.
The front of this lot will slope out to Murphy Street. There's numerous catch basins in Murphy Street. There's also a catch basin in Mr. Berry's backyard that was put in by Mr. Rosen when he did the Murphy Street construction.
But this, I mean, from the way I look at it, this drops down 18 feet.
No, it's not, no, it's 180.
62?
Well, no, it's 187, 186, 185, and then it starts coming back up
Oh,
over
this
here.
is the length, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, this rim is 184, 3, the road is 189, sloping
Okay.
in a general direction.
All right, I was reading it wrong.
We've actually created a landscape detail along Mr. Barry's property line with some plantings. See this detail, it protects him. One of the reasons we are here is this lot does lie in the floodplain and wetland district, and as you know, the zoning board would normally like some decision from the Conservation Commission, so that's one of the reasons we're also here tonight.
Well, I look at it pretty cut and dry. Matter of fact, I'm even surprised that this is being flagged, but that's beside the point. This house is already here on Crossley, that's in the floodplain. They've taken care of the disbursement of the water. Board have any other questions?
I have none.
I'm gonna open it up to the public. Does the public have any questions? All right, we'll bring it back to the board. And this is a request for determination. So what Kyle will be looking for is the board to give a negative determination. It's not a notice of intent. It's a request for determination, which means we have determined that this will be okay. That's why we're gonna give a negative determination. If you agree with that, we can take a proposal.
Son? I make it, we proposal that we do a negative
Determination.
determination of Murphy Street property.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
No DEP number needed on this?
They don't get one.
They don't get
Okay.
one. I mean, we send a copy of it to DEP, but they don't issue
Okay.
a file them.
I think you're all set.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, pal.
Yep, thank you.
Be good.
It's all yours now. Number two. Number two will cover it actually. And we don't have to sign off on that, anything, you just
Yeah.
send it, oh, we sign off. Well, we're getting ready, you want us to just sign that, that's the
Just do it.
request for determination.
Sorry, I'm gonna sneak in here.
That's fine. Okay, next on our agenda, we are going to have a notice of intent filed by LPC Northeast LLC for the proposed construction of a self-storage facility at 700 Bedford Street, with portions of the work to occur within the 100-foot buffer zone to bank and bordering vegetated wetlands. Before you get started, I just want to let the board know that I was at the planning board meeting the other night, and the planning board has accepted this project. Sean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Attorney Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street. I'm here representing the applicant, which is LPC Northeast. Also known, LP is Lincoln Properties, so you might hear them referred to as either LPC or Lincoln Properties tonight. With us tonight, a couple of representatives from LPC and also from their engineering firm, BHB. Sean Chisholm, Ellison Patton, and Mike Foster are here for LPC, but more importantly, Jeff Black, who is near the easel from BHB, is here, along with Connor Nagel, and they also have their environmental scientist, Tori Brown, sitting here in the front row to answer any questions. As the chairman just said, this plan has been reviewed and approved by the town's engineering consultant for all the drainage designs and all. We had the public hearing, they just voted to approve that last Monday night. And without that, I'll let VHB make their presentation as to what's going on here at 700. And I could just add one thing, just so you're acclimated as to where we are. The property that we're looking at is the Russ Wheatley building, as most people know it, the old Lamp Works, or Dorsey, not Dorsey, Dempsey Street building, and then the first house on Shar Avenue owned by Mr. Doughty. So those three properties comprise what we're presenting and what the planning board has approved. Thanks.
Good evening, Jeff Black with VHB. So I guess I'll start with a sort of run through the existing conditions at the site. As Sean mentioned, it's 3 parcels here. This 134 Shaw Ave is a residential property, and then these 2 back here are larger commercial properties. Bedford Street and Shaw Ave are the 2 abutting streets. There's some intermittent stream flowing planned north here, and then there's a wetland system located sort of in this back corner of the property. As far as existing conditions are concerned, today some drainage from 700 Bedford and 34 Shaw Ave. Sort of when the stormwater hits, there's no real drainage infrastructure there, so some of it sheets off into Shaw Ave and into Bedford Street. Some of the stormwater in this large wooded area sort of makes its way back into this wetland system. And then also 714 Bedford Street, there's an existing stormwater basin sort of back here. There are a couple catch basins that collect runoff from only this back parking lot area, and they bring it to a existing detention basin located back here sort of in the woodlands. So that's sort of a quick rundown of the existing drainage conditions. Right here we have our proposed site plan. So as you can see here, it's 2 proposed buildings with one access into the site off Bedford Street. All this green space you see here will be loam and seed with different types of landscape. We have a road surrounding, or a driveway surrounding the property, or surrounding the building. And as far as proposed drainage conditions, I guess actually I'll take a step back here. Like I mentioned before, there is a intermittent stream at the Plan North page here, and then some wetlands that extends here. So the wetland line itself is represented by the blue line here, and the 100-foot buffer zone is represented by the green line here. So I don't know if you guys can sort of make out this plan, but everything that falls within the limits of the pavement, we're going to collect with pipes and catch basins, sort of underground, pipe it underground, sort of maintaining the existing drainage patterns. Most of the water in existing conditions flows back here towards the wetland system. We're sort of maintaining that condition today. So, like I said, water will be collected by catch basins, drain manholes, and piped to a gravel wetland system here in the back, which is going to provide us our treatment. This is a stormwater basin, and the site itself is designed to meet all the stormwater standards. So we're going to be mitigating peaks. So peak runoff, there will be less runoff leaving the site from a peak discharge perspective in proposed conditions than there was in existing. We're going to get greater than 80% TSS removal with the deep sump catch basins and the sediment forebay and the gravel wetland itself. So this orange line here, you can see that's actually the existing limits of pavement. So we're actually, and this building is sort of the edge of our proposed pavement. So we are actually pulling back pavement from outside of, we're pulling pavement back from where it is today within the buffer zone. And this proposed basin itself, it is sited pretty much exactly where the existing basin is today. We're just enlarging the basin, bringing it up to today's stormwater standards with the design of that gravel wetland. So that's the gist of the stormwater. And if you guys have any detailed questions on the stormwater itself or the wetlands, be happy to answer.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Are you filling the property?
The ultimate goal will be a no import, no export site. So there are some areas where the site will be filled. There are some areas where it's going to be cut down. The ultimate goal, for that reason being, we need a flat site to put the building on. So sort of in this area, we'll be cutting the site. More towards this area, it will be a little bit filled. But overall, it's going to be a net export site. I mean, no export, no import site. So
These are a bit hard for us to read. Could you just tell us the grade from Shaw Ave to the back? Because I happen to be at the planning board to explain to the members of the commission how the water is going to flow from Route 18 in Shaw down to the back, and what the
Yeah.
grade might be.
So up here at the intersection, the grade is a bit higher, up around 120. The intersection itself is at 125, elevation 125. As you work your way into the site, you start grading down. Our finished floor of this building is 120 and a half, so it's going to be a bit lower than the intersection itself is. Shaw Ave slopes down this way, and Bedford Street slopes down this way. So there's low spots graded into the site, so water's going to drain into basically these four corners, and the pipes are going to bring it all back here. So our site itself sits a little bit lower than the intersection. As Bedford grades down, it'll be a bit higher at this corner, but back, our site is generally around elevation 120, 120 and a half, and this basin back here is around elevation 113 is the bottom of the basin, and it's going to be bermed up to 117.
So from the corner down, you got about a 12-foot drop. 125 down to 113.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's gonna flow back there and be self-contained. The biggest
Correct.
thing is self-contained,
correct, yep.
unless, of course, we get a 100-year storm, then nothing's
Yeah,
self-contained.
the overflow for this storm is straight into the wetland, sort of mimicking the existing conditions today. Right now, there's a pipe and a head wall that when this basin that's existing sees any water, it gets let out, and it's basically the exact same flow pattern, so.
Any other questions from the board? I'm gonna open it up to a public meeting now. Anybody out in the public have anything to say?
Well, I'm a resident across the street, and I'm concerned, and I have been, the gentleman know, that my concern is the water. Because I get flooded now. So if you're displacing the water and you're moving it around, what effect is it gonna have on my property?
Well, you already have a problem, ma'am. What they're
Well,
doing,
the street itself, when they asphalted the street this past fall, the runoff, when it comes down, it pools in my driveway.
well, that has, see, to be very honest with you, we're the conservation, existing conditions is something that we're really not responsible for,
Right.
so.
But I understand that, but I don't want it to get getting worse.
No, but what we're doing now is that's why we're asking the questions where it's gonna drain and if it's gonna be self-contained. And again, I went to the planning board meeting the other night to specifically hear about this.
Right.
And so I could bring it in front of the board and so forth, that from what I can see and what I can tell, and the engineer from the town has already approved this, that from what he can see and so forth, and the engineers have to stamp it, they're licensed and stamp it, so they're responsible, and they will, well, basically, as they told you the other night, you might have less water.
Can I add to that, just to give the rest of the board a little more of the history
Go
that
ahead.
Mr. Noonan might have the benefit of, just so the board's aware of how this developed. Mrs. Brown, is it?
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Brown lives down here, okay, on Shar Avenue. The original plan for this, and I think as you know right now, the existing condition, Russ Wheatley's building on the corner has an open driveway right here, and it flows down to Shar Avenue. Mr. Dowdy's house is right here, and again, he has a driveway on Shar Avenue. So right now, when it rains on Mr. Wheatley's property, there is no drainage system, it just flows onto Shar Avenue. The original proposal from LPC was to have a second driveway right here on Shar Avenue. And after the first hearing, we got some input from the neighbors, the fire chief, and they asked us to eliminate the driveway, which we did. Obviously, if we had a driveway, there might be water going towards Shar Avenue. So in doing this now, they were able to adjust the grade so that any water that falls on the building or on the pavement will be collected and flow this way to the wetlands as it does. This all does now. We're actually gonna collect a little bit more of it now and clean it better than it is now. So any water that falls off of the pavement along Shar Avenue is gonna hit landscaped area, much of which will be absorbed. If it was a heavy rain, sure, you might have some runoff at that point, but a lot less than what's existing. So
And-
that's how we got to that final design.
And the other thing the conservation looks at is the surface, and there's a lot of landscaping going on outside the asphalt, which will help absorb water.
Right, there'll be more than there is right now, is that correct?
More what?
More
Land.
land.
Vegetation.
as opposed
Yeah, more,
to
and
asphalt.
you'll have more absorption. Right now, the property that we're talking about is all asphalt, just kind of rolling down Shar Ave, if I'm correct, Sean?
Yeah, and I think the strip of landscaping we're putting along Shar Avenue goes between 20 to 40 feet wide, I believe.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
So as far as the conservation, we're looking at the wetlands and so forth, and the engineer has signed off on the flow and everything else, so from what I can see, from conservation's point of view, pretty confident that it's gonna be okay through the Wetlands Act. And I think that, again, I went to the meeting, but I think that you'll be happier in the long run with this project, but that's my own opinion. Anything else from the board?
So it's gonna block the water flow going into the house, is it behind this as well?
Say that again, Karen?
There's some people that had a concern behind this as well, and I know that's more planning than it is conservation, but they were worried about the water overflow too, has that been eliminated
You
for them?
Shar Avenue neighbors, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. Adams was here. I can show you, that's the next house right here.
Correct,
So yeah, anything that, as I said, flows on, if it falls on the roof, it gets collected by roof drains, it gets connected to the underground drainage system. If it falls on the pavement, it goes in the catch basins. All of that water is collected and goes that way. There is a slope, on the landscaping, it goes down to the Adams property, it goes down this way, but that will be all landscaped and with trees. You can see the tree that's called out for it. The only reason that, frankly, we're here in front of you is because of this area out here is within the buffer zone. We're not filling any wetlands, we're just basically upgrading the existing retention pond, expanding it. And just so the board's aware also, we agreed with the planning board. The planning board required us, they typically hold a $25,000 performance bond to make sure that all the trees are planted, all the final details are done at the end of the project, or they won't give you back your $25,000. We increased it to $40,000 so that even when the building and the tree planting is done and they can give us the $25,000, they're gonna hold an additional $15,000 to make sure that this retention pond, all the vegetation stuff is growing for 2 growing seasons before they give us that back. So they'll be monitoring that, and their engineer will be monitoring to make sure it's built correctly and it's working correctly.
And ma'am, just so you know, that we are going to issue an order of conditions that maintaining that will be, even if it changes owners, that
Okay,
will always have to be maintained.
okay.
And that'll be filed with the town, with the DEP and so forth and so on. Does it get filed with the deed? I don't know whether,
It gets filed in registry deeds. yeah.
Yes.
So any future buyer is aware of it, gets a
Right.
copy of it.
just to help put your mind at ease a little
Right.
more,
Right,
just so that that's what we can do.
right, thank you.
Okay.
My concern is only because where I previously lived, there was an area not far from my house, and it was a wooded area, and apparently construction people got in there and they started dumping cement, and they changed the log table. And all of a sudden, we all, you know, there were probably about 15 houses. We all started getting flooding, and we had never had that problem prior to that. So they started investigating, and it took them a period of time, but they finally found out it was construction that was illegally dumping. They finally, when they got them, they, you know, made them clear it out, and, you know, they fined them and whatnot. And things were resolved at that point. But that's why I'm concerned, because once you start changing, you know, the amount of soil.
Well, I can
you
tell you
know,
right here,
you're gonna change.
right here on the board, Jerry's like a resident watchdog. And he goes around and he checks on things like that, on soil, and
Yeah.
he does a good job. So,
Okay.
we were actually at a site today because Jerry was noticing something, so. We try to help out as much as we can, being a volunteer
Yeah.
committee. Anybody else?
I'm quite sure if these people realize your situation, I mean, just, they'll be mindful of it. I'm quite sure they don't want you saying to them that just want to do their work. And if they do it right, the water is not gonna go over there, it's gonna go out back where it's supposed to. I think they're being pretty mindful of it. They're presenting their picture, their proposal and all that stuff, because they don't want any trouble with water no more than you do.
Right, and one further thing, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but at the end of, when the project is completed, the engineers then have to draft up an as-built plan to show what was actually constructed, did it match what was proposed, they have to submit that to the planning board, the town's engineer has to review that to see that everything was built the way it was, and if there's any variation, there needs to be a reason why, you know, it can't create a problem that wasn't approved. So that process will happen after construction, as part of the planning board's subsequent review of the finished product.
And as far as the conservation, they have to submit a plan to us too, and ask us for a,
Certificate of compliance.
certificate of compliance with the as-built, and to make sure that all the drainage and so forth is done, and then that is filed with the registry of deeds and the DEP. So, we're just, you know, understanding that there's only so much land left and people, you know, wanna protect their own,
Right,
but they do have a right to use their land as long as it's done right,
right.
so. If there's nothing else from the audience, then I'll bring it back to the board.
I have a question for
Go ahead.
Tara, is it? Tori, sorry, Tara. Have you walked the wetlands? Is there any species, rare species in there, plant life?
It's not mapped as a rare species habitat. Natural Heritage keeps a database with all the areas that they've mapped as priority or estimated habitat, so it isn't mapped as any of that. We did include a plant list in our notice of intent application. It's a lot of native species, some mix of native and invasive, but it's intermittent stream and bordering forested wetland currently area.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna close the meeting, and, if somebody would like,
We wait on DP number?
oh, there is no DEP number. This will, we can take a vote, but we can't issue an order of conditions without the DEP number. So, what'll have to happen is you'll have a continuance, we meet every 2 weeks, just for your convenience. So, if you wanna come back in 2 weeks, it's just a formality. We will take the vote that night. We can do a preliminary vote right now, so that you'll know what the results are gonna be, but we have, unless it's the DEP number, we can't vote. There's nothing for us really, except for the set of plans to vote on.
Right.
So, if that's okay, we can take the vote, but we can't issue the order of conditions,
Okay, understood.
okay?
With the understanding, to save everyone time and money, I probably won't pay to have the engineers come back to that meeting, there won't be any further presentation. That's all.
No, I mean, just as long as it was a representative, just to,
Yep, it'll be myself or one of
that's
these,
fine,
yeah.
yeah. That's,
And just so the neighbors understand, it, this all gets filed with DEP also, and DEP assigns a file number to this, and the board needs to get that number from DEP before they can actually issue their order of conditions document. and DEP just hasn't given us the number yet.
Right. I will take a vote, if somebody would like to make a,
Motion to accept the notice of intent for 700 Bedford, continued upon getting DP number.
second?
I'll
I'll
second.
Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's been temporarily, well, not temporarily, but approved, but it will be officially approved in 2 weeks, when the DEP number is formally brought in. Anybody can come in.
Yep.
Sean, you know how it works, it'll only take a minute.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, and good luck.
Happy Valentine's
Quite a
Day.
project. Now, we're gonna go back to the certificate of compliance. They have not shown up, but if you've read the letter and the correspondence, I think that in knowing how they work for the Mass Electric Company and National Grid and so forth, we've never had any problems. Everything is in here that we need, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to see the colored copies of the,
No, this is fine. So if we'd like to have a request for a certificate of compliance for 84,533, I'll entertain that.
I'll make the motion, make a request for compliance for Chestnut Street, 84,533.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Good. Sign off on this.
yeah.
Now, is there, I'd like to have a vote on the acceptance of the minutes for January 13th, 2020. Has everybody had a chance to read them? And if so, can we have a motion to accept?
I motion that we accept the minutes of January 13th meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I think Karen, you have to abstain?
Oh, no, I said aye. I have to abstain because I wasn't there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that's done. Jerry, building permit, site visits, we did one.
Building permits, there were no building permits, there was involved with conservation. 2 site visits, one I did myself, Jean Carroll Road, the man has came in, he's gonna do a request for determination, he'll be coming back to us in, next, in 2 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
And then the other one was at 0 Adams Street, they had done some work up there, they didn't put the silt fence up. Michael and I went up there today and we saw the silt fence, everything was in place and everything was up to order, so they, I told them that they can move along, and if any problem, just give us a buzz, we'll gladly make it easy for everybody.
That's why you're a watchdog. Now, old business discussion on Route 18. Anybody had anything to discuss on Route 18 project? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.